Okay, so maybe you're thinking about getting into electric vehicles, but not just any EV. You want something that can handle a little adventure, right?
They're not alone.
Well, let's take a deep dive into a story that blends some cool nostalgia with some seriously futuristic tech. We're talking about Scout Motors. Yeah, I remember the International Harvester Scout, that rugged off-road icon.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Volkswagen's bringing that name back.
But this time, it's all electric.
All electric.
Yeah.
And get this, they're aiming to keep that starting price under $60,000.
Which is pretty aggressive, really, for an EV with this much capability.
Under 60 grand. I like the sound of that. That's what I call making adventure attainable, right?
Absolutely.
Oh. Give us the rundown. What makes these new Scouts so special?
Well, both the Terra and the Traveler, those are the two models. They're built from the ground up on a dedicated off-road platform.
Okay.
This isn't just some electric motor crammed into an existing chassis. No. This tells me they're serious about creating vehicles that can really handle the rough stuff.
So we're not talking about just like your typical grocery getter EVs here.
Yeah,
these are built for like exploring those back roads.
Absolutely.
And beyond. I could already picture myself cruising down a dirt trail.
Yeah.
Windows down.
I love it.
Yeah. So what else can you tell me about these models?
Well, let's start with the Terra pickup. It's got a 5.5-foot bed, pretty standard. But here's where it gets interesting. They've included built-in 120 and 240 volt outlets right in the bed.
What?
Yeah. Think about it. Power your tools at a work site?
Oh, that's cool.
Or even like run a blender for, those post-adventure margaritas.
Okay, I love it. Now we're talking. Okay, so work and play covered.
All in one.
In one package. Now, I'm curious about this Traveler SUV.
Yeah.
What sets that apart?
So with the Traveler, they're really leaning into this whole open-air experience. Okay, imagine this. You're cruising with the top down thanks to these really cool cabana-style folding roof panels.
Oh, wow.
Or, if you prefer a more panoramic view, there's an option for a slick glass roof with a powered shade.
See, now that's a tough choice. Panoramic views or open-air freedom.
Right.
I don't even know which one I would pick, but...
Yeah.
What I love about EVs is that instant torque. What kind of power are we talking here?
All right, get ready for this. They're targeting a mind-blowing 1,000 pound-feet of torque, which translates to an exhilarating 0 to 60 time of about 3.5 seconds.
Whoa. Okay, so that's supercar territory.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how quickly you could get up to speed on the highway. Or power through some challenging terrain with that kind of torque. But hold on a sec. What about range anxiety? That fear of running out of juice in the middle of nowhere.
I was wondering when you were going to get to that. That's a valid concern, especially for, adventure seekers. But
yeah.
Scout's aiming to address that with an impressive targeted range of up to 350 miles on the standard battery.
Okay.
And they're even planning range-extending options. That could push it beyond 500 miles.
100 miles. Okay. That's enough to get you pretty far off the grid. I like it.
Huh.
All right. So they're really trying to put those range anxiety fears to rest.
Oh. Sometimes it's the little details that make a big difference.
Oh, for sure.
Anything else about these Scouts that kind of stands out to you?
One thing that really impressed me is their approach to the front. The front.
Yeah.
The front trunk.
Yeah.
It's not just an empty space for charging cables.
Mm-hmm.
They've actually designed it with specific dimensions to fit things like golf clubs.
Oh, nice.
A gym bag.
Yeah.
Or even a cooler.
I like it. So now you're speaking my language.
Right.
I love that kind of thoughtful design. It's just, they're really considering the needs of their target audience, those makers, doers, everyday explorers they keep mentioning. Yeah. But let's shift gears for a minute. Let's talk about the overall look of these new Scouts. What are we thinking?
Well, they're going for this really cool retro meets modern aesthetic. Think rounded contours.
Yeah.
And a black mask, front and rear, kind of harkens back to that classic Scout, but with some sleek, modern touches. Okay, so it's not just reviving the name. They're channeling some of that, like that iconic design DNA.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about the interior? Are we talking like spaceship-style touchscreens everywhere?
That's where they're taking a little bit of a different approach. While a lot of EVs are going all in on these digital cockpits, Scout's opting for something a little different, more tactile controls. It's a deliberate choice. Might appeal to drivers who prefer a more hands-on, less screen-heavy experience.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to grab a knob or flick a switch, It's that satisfying feeling of being in control.
I agree.
Yeah. But let's be real. All this tech and design is great. But where are they actually going to build these things?
Ah, good question. So they're building a brand new factory in South Carolina. Production slated to begin in 2027. Now, this is a big deal because it means they're committed to American manufacturing,
I like it.
which could create thousands of jobs.
Made in America. I love that. And it gives them more control over, like, the quality and the production process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about the models, the tech, the design, production plans. But there's still one big question looming.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with this.
Can Scout carve out a space for itself in a market that's already getting crowded with electric trucks and SUVs?
It's the question, isn't it?
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
they're going up against some serious heavy hitters.
Big time.
So how do they plan to stand out from the crowd?
Well, that's what we'll dig into next. They've got some interesting strategies up their sleeve. And it all revolves around this idea of blending heritage, capability, and affordability.
All right. I'm all ears. Let's unpack this market battle and see if Scout has what it takes to become a major player in this EV world.
Let's do it. So can Scout really carve out a piece of this electric pie? Well, they're walking a tightrope, trying to win over folks who remember those classic Scouts and appeal to, a new generation of EV buyers. It's a clever move, tapping into that nostalgia, but they can't rely on warm, fuzzy feelings alone.
Right. They need to deliver the goods. So how are they going to stand out in this crowded market? I mean, let's be honest. They're going up against giants like Ford, Jeep, and Toyota, who've been building off-roaders for decades.
Yeah, exactly. And those brands have, loyal followings and dealer networks that are tough to beat.
Right.
But Scout does have some advantages, Right. Remember, they're not burdened by having to adapt like old designs or factories to this new EV world. They're starting fresh, which means they can really optimize these vehicles for electric powertrains and the latest technology.
That's like having a clean slate to create the ultimate electric adventure mobile.
Right.
Yeah, I could see how that would give them an edge.
Yeah.
But
we can't forget about those established brands. They're not just sitting on their laurels. They're all coming out with their own electric trucks and SUVs.
That's true, but here's where Scout's pricing strategy could be a game changer. By aiming for that sub-$60,000 starting price, they're undercutting a lot of those premium EV off-roaders out there.
Yeah. That makes them accessible to a much wider audience. Folks who might not be able to, shell out six figures for an electric adventure rig.
Right. That's a smart move. Make it attainable, and people will be more likely to take the leap. But affordability isn't everything. They need to prove that these Scouts can actually walk the walk.
Oh, absolutely.
They need to show that they're just as capable, if not more so, than their gas-guzzling counterparts.
Absolutely. They need to back up that nostalgia with some serious off-road chops.
Yeah.
And that's where their dedicated off-road platform comes in, the powerful electric motors.
Yeah.
And the long range. They're building these vehicles to go the distance. Literally and figuratively.
It's like they're taking the spirit of the original Scout and injecting it with a dose of 21st century technology.
Exactly.
It's a compelling combination. But it's not without its challenges.
Right. There's always the risk that people will just see this as like a marketing ploy, a way to cash in on nostalgia, without actually delivering anything truly innovative. They'll need to convince skeptics that this is more than just a name revival.
Yeah.
This is a legitimate effort to redefine what an electric adventure vehicle can be.
They need to prove that they're not just coasting on the legacy of the past. They're building on it, evolving it, and pushing it forward into the future. And speaking of the future, let's talk about the bigger picture here. This isn't just about one brand trying to make a splash. It's about a fundamental shift happening in the entire automotive industry.
You got it. The rise of electric vehicles is changing the game. And it's forcing everyone, from the biggest automakers to the smallest startups, to adapt and innovate.
Right.
And in this rapidly evolving landscape, it's the companies that can anticipate the needs of consumers, embrace new technologies, and deliver compelling experiences that will ultimately succeed.
So, where does Scout fit into all of this? Are they just another player in a crowded field, or are they truly a disruptor with the potential to shake things up?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? They have the potential to be a disruptor. They're entering the market with a fresh perspective, a clear vision, and the backing of a major automaker. But they'll need to execute flawlessly and overcome some serious challenges to truly make their mark.
Challenges like building brand awareness, establishing a dealer network, and convincing consumers that electric off-roading is not only viable, but actually superior in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's a tall order, but it's not impossible.
And that's what makes the story so fascinating to watch. Will they succeed? Will they stumble? Or will they fall somewhere in between? Only time will tell. But one thing is for sure. Scout Motors is a company to keep an eye on.
I agree.
They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the EV space. And they're doing it with a blend of heritage and innovation that's both intriguing and inspiring.
Right. We've talked a lot about Scout, the market they're entering, and the challenges they face. But I want to bring it back to you, the listener, for a moment. Why should you care about this? What makes this story relevant to your life?
That's a great question. And I think the answer lies in the fact that Scout represents a shift in the way we think about adventure and sustainability. They're challenging the notion that you have to sacrifice one for the other.
They're saying you can have your cake and eat it too. You can explore the great outdoors, push your limits, and do it all with a vehicle that's both powerful and eco-friendly.
Exactly.
It's a message that resonates with a growing number of people who are looking for ways to minimize their impact on the planet without compromising their lifestyle.
And beyond the environmental aspect, Scout's focus on affordability is also really significant. They're making electric off-roading accessible to a wider audience, people who might not have considered it before. That's democratizing adventure. And it's opening up new possibilities for exploration and discovery.
It's like they're breaking down barriers and saying, hey, adventure is for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful message, especially in a world that often feels divided and exclusive.
So, even if you're not in the market for an electric truck or SUV right now, I think there's something to be learned from Scout's story. It's a story about innovation, about challenging the status quo, and about finding ways to create a more sustainable and inclusive future.
It's a story that's worth paying attention to, regardless of your personal preferences or your current car buying plans.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it's a story about the power of human ingenuity and the potential we have to create a better world.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to touch on something we haven't really discussed yet, the emotional connection that people have with cars. It's something that's often overlooked in all the talk about technology and specs.
Oh, absolutely. Cars are more than just machines. They're extensions of ourselves. They represent our values, and they play a huge role in our lives. And for a lot of people, the original Scout evoked a sense of freedom, adventure, and a connection to the outdoors. So the big question is, can the new Scout capture that same spirit?
That's the challenge they face, isn't it? To create a vehicle that's not just technologically advanced, but also emotionally resonant, a vehicle that speaks to the heart as much as it does to the head. And that's something we'll be exploring in more detail after a quick, wait a minute, we don't have breaks in this deep dive, do we?
Nope, we just keep on rolling. So let's dive right in and unpack this emotional side of Scout Motors. How are they tapping into those feelings of nostalgia, adventure, and connection that made the original Scout so iconic and will be enough to win over hearts and minds in today's EV market?
Yeah.
So we're talking about the emotional side of this whole Scout Motors thing. It's one thing to have all the cool tech and specs, but can they really capture that same spirit of adventure and freedom that made the original Scout so beloved?
Yeah, it's a tall order. You're trying to tap into memories and emotions that are deeply personal for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Think about it. Those old Scouts, they weren't just cars, they were companions for adventures.
Right.
For exploring the unknown.
It was about more than just getting from point A to point B. It was about the journey, the experience, the connection with nature. So how do you translate that into a modern electric vehicle? I mean, sure, the new Scout has the looks and the capability.
Yeah.
But can it evoke those same feelings?
Well, I think they're trying to do that in a few ways. First, there's the obvious nostalgia play, bringing back a name that has a lot of positive associations for people.
Right.
Just hearing the name Scout conjures up these images of, rugged landscapes, open trails, and a sense of boundless possibility.
It's like they're giving people a ticket back to their youth, a chance to relive those carefree days of exploration and discovery. But it can't just be about looking back, right? It has to be about creating new memories, new adventures for a new generation.
Exactly. And that's where I think Scout's focus on sustainability comes into play. For a lot of people, especially younger generations, environmental consciousness is like a core value.
Right.
They want to explore the world, but they want to do it in a way that minimizes their impact.
So it's not just about the adventure itself. It's about the values behind it.
Yeah.
It's about feeling good about the way you're experiencing the world.
Exactly. And electric vehicles, especially ones that are built for off-roading, offer a unique opportunity to kind of connect those two passions. adventure and sustainability.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying you don't have to choose between exploring the world and protecting it. You can do both.
The powerful message.
Mm.
And I think it resonates with a lot of people. But there's still that question of whether the new Scout can live up to the legacy of the original. Can it truly capture that same spirit of like rugged individualism and go anywhere capability?
Well, from a technological standpoint, they're certainly ticking all the boxes.
Right.
The electric powertrain, the long range, the dedicated off-road platform. Those are all ingredients for a vehicle that can handle some serious adventure.
And let's not forget about the design. They've done a great job of blending those classic Scout cues with a modern aesthetic. It's both familiar and fresh, rugged and refined. But ultimately, I think the answer to that question lies in the hands of the people who buy and drive these vehicles.
Yeah, I agree. It's up to them to create their own adventures, to forge their own paths, and to write the next chapter in the Scout story. And that's what's so exciting about this whole thing. It's a blank slate, a new beginning, an opportunity to redefine what adventure means in the 21st century.
And who knows, maybe someday, years from now, people will look back at these new Scouts with the same fondness and nostalgia that we have for the originals. Maybe they'll become icons in their own right. Symbols of a time when we started to reconnect with nature in a more sustainable and responsible way.
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? To think that a car company could not only revive a beloved brand, but also help to shape the way we experience and interact with the world around us.
It's a reminder that innovation isn't just about technology. It's about ideas. It's about values. And it's about the stories we tell ourselves, about who we are and where we're going. And in that sense, I think Scout Motors is doing something truly special.
I think so too. They're tapping into something deeper, something that transcends, the nuts and bolts of automotive engineering. They're reminding us that adventure is a state of mind,
Right.
a thirst for exploration, a willingness to push beyond our comfort zones. And they're giving us the tools to do that in a way that's both exciting and responsible.
Well said. It's been a fascinating deep dive into the world of Scout Motors. We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical specs to the market landscape to the emotional resonance of this brand revival. But as always, we want to leave you with something to ponder, something to spark your own curiosity and exploration.
So, dear listener, we ask you this. What does adventure mean to you? And how can you embrace it in a way that aligns with your values and aspirations? Whether you're a seasoned off-roader or someone who's just starting to explore the world beyond their doorstep, we encourage you to seek out new experiences, challenge your limits, and discover the joy of connecting with nature in a meaningful way.
That's it for this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed the ride. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those adventurous spirits alive.